Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tiger here. Welcome to round 3 of this DTM 2016 league. We're at Zandvoort. I'm here with Beanster, and we've got a change around tonight. Usually I'm the number one. Beans has been with us. He's done a great job last week, and this week he's stepping up to the plate. So I know that there'll be a stream party afterwards watching it. I know that there'll be people that will watch this over the next couple of days. So do please reach out to him, give him your feedback and support, because he's stepping up to be a number one commentator with us and join us for the rest of our leagues and races, and more on that at the very end of the race tonight. So without further ado, camera controls and full control. The race is yours. Beanstar, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tiger, and welcome everybody. Welcome today to this, the third of 4 legs of our short sprints using the DTM16 grade in race room. This is a fond track for me. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, and I'm really excited by the opportunity to be the number one for a day, because it might only be a day, right? I'm literally in the driving wheel here. I've had my 20-minute driving test on the systems behind the scene, and I'm going to give this a go. So where are we? First of all, we're at Zandvoort. So Zandvoort is a beautiful track. It's right on the coastline, about 30 kilometers south of Amsterdam. It's a very, very famous track. It dates back to just after the Second World War, and it's gone through a number of different iterations over the past few years, so quite a significant amount of layout changes. It's literally nestled in the sand dunes. On the left there you see on Charger's car, that is sand that's reclaimed from the beach, which is walking distance from this track. And very, very key in this is the parabolicas and also the bends. But most recently it's been upgraded in the last year or so. It was supposed to feature on this year's 2020 F1 calendar, but unfortunately because of COVID they had to cancel the event, which is a dire shame because they'd done such a fabulous amount of work. So it's just such a great track, very fast corners, some very technical corners. It's short, which means you get quite a sprint sensation about it. And we've got some great historical winners here. Actually, fastest track time in the previous iteration of this track was by Alain Prost in a previous F1 race. So it's littered with heroes of the past. And they're racing F1, F2, F3, F5000s, TCs, DTM. It's actually most famous for DTM, I'd say, and GT cars as well. So what you're looking at is a very historical track. What's your view on this track, Tiger? What's your
I love it because it's one of the very few tracks that I can race around and not stack myself into a wall. I think that's probably because most of it is Armco and tyres. I think if there's any concrete out in there, I automatically gravitate to it like a polar opposites of a magnet or something. Yeah, I like it. It's for me, it's not in that bracket of a Marmite track. I think, almost everybody who's been around Zandvoort like it. I particularly like the fact that it is parabolica heavy. You've essentially got you've got 3 parabolicas. You've got one at Tarzan corner. You've got the Hockenheimring, and then of course you've got turn 10.
Yeah, let's take a quick tour. Actually, I've jumped on board with Visa, who was fighting for the lead last week in 3rd, 4th place. Let's take a little look. We're already at Gerlachbach, and we're turning into the Hockenheimring. I'm going to try and Dutch for a little while until I wear out. Over the Hootenrug, and then we're going to go to Rob Slotmaker, which is a favourite corner. Flat out round here, if you dare, all the way down into a late braking point into Schivlach, which is a very fast right-hander here. You have to balance the throttle very nicely, and then stab brake, turn, and when you've got the courage, hit the foot down again into Master Box. Very nasty corner as you slide through this, balancing brake and throttle into the right-hander there at Box 9, and then into a slow and painfully slow left-hander called Box 10. Sprint as fast as you can. If you dare, get your DRS out for the race down to Hans Ernst Bocht, which is a very interesting right-left-hander here, so you have to position your car carefully to get a good entrance for a good exit, because you're going to run out here over to Kumho, which is the next corner, a right-hander at as much pace as you can to keep the pace, keep the momentum going through the very fast Harry Luyendijk Boch. which I think I'm going to call Harry
What great
Loyendick. And into the start-finish straight. So very, very quick and very short circuit here.
Yeah, and there's been as you mentioned earlier on at the beginning, Bean, so there's been a few changes, haven't there, on the circuit for F1. I think on the main straight, the start-finish line has been moved further towards T1 that we're seeing Dirk Gretschel come into now, so that all the cars can be seen along the grandstand. I believe the exit here at Gerlach has also been widened, and I believe coming into Hockenheimring, the inside line there has also been widened in order to get as much power and speed out up the Hunsrück as possible. And there are a couple of other places around the track that's been changed, notably into the Herns-Enst bend, where that's been shortened and widened into the entry of the inverted parabolica there. And then I believe around the penultimate corner, I can't say it, Ludniak. I always say Ludniak, I don't think that's right, but I think that's now banked, I think.
It is really severely banked, that fast one, so it's extremely quick. And you can imagine in an F1 car, which is what they're scaled for, they're probably flat out around that final corner. I was really hoping to see that this year, but we'll just have to wait till 2021, which is when it's scheduled for. Yeah. Just to make sure I get this disclaimer in earlier, obviously this is my first go at driving the cameras, speaking clearly, and actually having any value to add to the commentary. So if I make mistakes, if I say your name wrong, if I say the complete wrong name, or if I end up looking at the wrong car and saying somebody else's name, I apologize in advance, and you may fact check my entire stream if you want.
I think you'll be fine. Yeah, we do the best we can with pronunciations, but we're an international group, ladies and gents. So, if we get it wrong, we're certainly not doing it on purpose. No one goes out sim racing to ruin someone else's race by crashing into them, and nobody commentates with an aim to get people's names wrong. So give us a break.
Yeah, little slack here. So just looking at the series, then we are halfway through. We've had 2 races. We've already raced at Redbull Ring, and we've also raced at Mid-Ohio. We're at Zandvoort for the 3rd, and the final one is at Hockenheimring. So there's actually quite a lot to play for, even though you might not think so, because Martin Peterman has won both of the first 2 races, so currently on 142 points. Dirk Gretschel is behind, only 20 points behind. These are then on 104 points. These are our top 3 runners. 93 for Gabzi, 69 for Marco and Konietzny. There you go. See, there's my first go at it. British is in 7th on 68, so quite a pack there. You can see from 11th, which is FX, on 60 points, through Madal on 61, Charger 64, Sam on 64, and British on 68. You've got quite a pack there. Yeah. Although they might not all be fighting for first, there's a lot to be played for in these last 2 races.
Absolutely, there is. And yeah, quite interesting you mentioned about Martin Peterman. One in Red Bull, obviously, and one at Mid-Ohio. How will he do this time round? Well, you can already see he's just put a 129.912 in. He's currently first. We got Migueles, who had a fantastic race last week, but then I think had an issue. But he finished 4th last week, didn't he? So he had a good run. How will Migueles perform at Zandvoort? I think for me, that's who I'm going to be looking at, because I think he's the hidden gem.
Okay, we're running down 45 seconds before the end of qualifying, so these guys will be on their last laps trying to put in a better time. We have 24 runners tonight. I think we had 21 finishers last week, 20 finishers the last week before, so occasionally getting 2 or 3 that are either having technical issues or are just getting too much damage during the race and not able to complete it. And there you see the running order. So Martin Peterman takes the pole position, Pedro Magaras in the 2nd, Dirk Gretschel 3rd, Visa Kicelli in 4th, Jürgen Welby in 5th, and Jan Moolman in 6th. And actually Jan's one to look for, missed 1 race but finished, I think it was 4th in the other race. Yeah, so definitely in the top 5 or 6. So you can see the top runners there, very consistent. Running through, Marco, Madal, Gabsi, Alwyn, down to position number 10 here. And then running through the pack while we're just setting up, FX made 11th, Mr. Judd made 12th, Holm Anderson made 13th, Konietzny made 14th, Menacing Skull made 15th, British in 16th, Perez in 17th, Peterson in 18th, Charger in 19th, Cos 20, Matt O 21, Burley 22, Andy Black 23, and finally Jag Dice is in 24th.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is going to be a good race. I think it's a good time to reiterate that although this is a planned league, Gabsy is the event organizer. Although this is a planned league, it's semi-open, and by that I mean that yes, of course, most of the seats there are by RWB members and partners, but it's an open door. So if you're watching this and you race with a different club, for example, and you don't have any racing on a Friday, then well, come along and secure a seat. There's plenty of slots up to 50. You don't have to be an RWB member to come along. All we ask is that you do 3 things out there when you're racing with us and partners, and that's race clean, race fair, race for position, in that order. We don't put up with any public lobby mentalities, and this is not a public lobby per se. It is a semi-open. We open the doors to the community. Come along and race with us on Friday.
Yeah, and I can't reiterate that more. As fairly new to RWB, I joined the Endurance Race Series a couple of months ago, and because I was driver number 1, I inherited all of the safety ratings in the ACC league that we're running. I ended up with a safety rating of 97 or something like that after the race, which is crazy. My driving buddy was gutted that he wasn't the number 1 driver. I then made the mistake last week of went on to some public lobbies, and I'm now down to 85 because it is not race clean, race fair, and race for position on most open lobbies.
No, it's race for position, and then clean and fair is thrown out the window half the time.
Something that other people can consider.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, looking forward to tonight's race. Interesting to see whether Martin can stamp his authority on the series even further, but you never know what can happen. Racing can take a lot of turns. You've got back markers to deal with. You've got your mandatory pit stop tonight, which anyone can take at any time. You asked me this last week, Tiger. I'm really interested in your response to the same question and around the strategy for pit stops. What is there a preferred strategy that these guys use, or is there a esports preference? What's your view on that?
I think it all depends in how their starts go and where they're positioned on the grid. Someone like Martin Peterman, we've seen, prefers to go long, almost into the 3/4 point before he sort of comes in for the pits. I think most of the guys out there will not be too concerned with their strategy, and by that I mean that they will be enjoying the racing and just literally split it in half and come in at the halfway point, change their tyres, and off they pop again.
Yeah, very difficult to predict when you don't have an engineering team supporting your exit from pit to see whether you're going to end up in traffic or not. You're too busy trying to keep the car on the grey stuff to know where you're going to return on circuit.
Yeah. Interestingly, last week I had a chat with Martin Peterman afterwards, who was watching the stream with us, and he gave us some input actually on a sort of different take on beer, mentioning about the differences of each of the cars. Something that he mentioned just before handing over to you at the 22nd point, and that is the Audi has got a slightly higher ride point, which actually is of benefit to it around certain types of tracks.
Okay, just a point of administration here, Tiger, and this is me being completely transparent. I can't see any names on the auto director screen anymore. That's
fine. They will all come on. At the minute, they're in the garage, and as soon as the sort of countdown is done, your race director will become live. There you go.
Great. Here we go. Red lights. Ready for the third leg. Looking forward to seeing how this goes. It's a very short sprint down to T1, and pole position makes a good solid start. You can see some shuffling in the mid-pack there, but it looks to me like Peterman's cleaned off the first line here, so it's really a battle over second, third and fourth as we come into T1 here. Turn round to, let's look at Vizar as he comes round. Good progress. Looking back
all
at the
clean,
there, all clean, very, very good. Really tough fighting in second, third, and fourth. And as you can imagine, everyone is extremely close at this point in time as they work their way through the first couple of corners. It's really difficult to make sure that you don't lose it in these first moments. Adrenaline is high. These cars have very high tendency to spin around when you get too excited with the accelerator, but the guys are obviously really solid racers here, keeping it very, very clean as Martin starts to gap slightly on Pedro Migueles behind him. A couple of 0.8 of a second already, 3/4 of a lap in. He's got to be pinned back, Tiger.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Martin Peterman, we saw that on the qualifying. He was at least a second in front of everyone else. So, I mean, that's something to take away for a start. But as we said, Migueles, looking on the back of the wing there with Peterman, back to Migueles. Already Peterman drawing out what is essentially, a second on Migueles. They're not even through the, 3/4 of the way through the track, just coming into Kumo, I believe. Into Kumo. Already pulling out, but Migueles, certainly establishing himself in second place.
Yeah, looking really strong. Some great battles in the middle of the pack here. You can see a very tightly strung drivers here with Olwyn, Gabsy, FX and Menacing Skull all battling away there, definitely underneath each other for the final straight here. I'm expecting somebody to plunge up the inside, but you can cover quite easily here because there are a number of different lines to take through T1. You can brake very late and go very wide. It doesn't seem to have too much of effect if you're very gentle with the throttle on the way out. So I think that battle's eased itself out, but it's moving up here to Marco. You can see there's a bit of pressure he's applying on Jorgen Welby in front of him. Great driving so far. No offs as far as I can see. I see Andy Black here is actually a lap down already, so maybe he's already had a problem. But no other problems so far. Some tight racing going on as Martin extends his lead to 1.6 seconds, 1.5 laps.
Good grief. 1.5 laps, 1.5 seconds in front. I'm willing to bet in about 3 laps time, he will have a significant gap based upon that time differential. You're looking at, 5 seconds, aren't you? He's going to pull away there. But, there is racing going on everywhere. Of course, they've completed their first lap. They're on round lap 2 now. So DRS has been awarded. DRS, as a reminder, is going to be awarded if you're within 1 second of the car in front of you. And there's DRS all throughout the pack. But this is only lap 2. It's still tight. Some great racing. Camera angles at Zandvoort, I've got to say, Beanster, are awesome along the main straight.
Yeah, just great to see the whole of the straight there packing up. I see Jorgen looked like he put a toe off on the right hand side. He'll lose all his pace along the straight here. Already got Marco right underneath him. Probably going to dive for this first corner, but maybe didn't have the top end pace there. He's covering himself. He made no room there. Jorgen nicely closed the door. Gentlemanly
Great stuff. Well done. Brilliant. Now don't forget, these cars have got no traction control. So this is down to, good old discipline with the right pedal, and of course that enormous rear wing and canards on the front there. But there's no traction control. These cars can be very skitty, and they can just disappear off the track.
Yeah, and it's always on the acceleration when you get so excited. Oh, we've got one already running off there. I think that might be. Oh no, I missed that one. Sorry, poor clicking. Too keen with the mouse finger. So really great racing here, and I think you can see FX is starting to really put the pressure here on Gabsy, but he's got to cover himself because it's still so tightly packed here in this middle area. We're looking at 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th all in the same shot within a second of each other, all pushing, and it's all changed now in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I love these cars because the balance of performance between all the three different the balance of performance with all the, I think that was was that FX?
I think that was
it was Alwyn. Yeah. Crikey, Alwyn, come on, Jesus, don't give me a heart attack. It's only lap 4, oh boy, we've got 55 minutes to go. Crikey, I lost what I was saying. The balance of performance is so good amongst these cars that unless you're significantly much more talented, as we're looking at Gabsy going on the outside of Tarzan, but just not enough, and just nips in behind Alwyn. But the balance of performance is so good that actually... a little tap.
Yeah, tag to the back there.
Yeah, fair play, Alwyn. You allowed him to rejoin and then went wide and deep himself, and that's caused you some places. But, no harm done, all good. The race continues. But the balance of performance is so good that actually... it is very, it is a good series to measure sim racer's ability rather than just the car, the pure grunt of the car, because the cars are so evenly matched.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we would always talk about this. It's fascinating the way that the cars have been made so that there's such different cars depending on how the track lays out. Straights. Oh, spinner there. That looked like he might have put a little bit too much juice in. Actually speared off. Just trying to track that. That wasn't FX, was it? No.
It was a yellow BM, wasn't it?
It was a yellow BM, yeah. Okay, just tracking that. There's too many close races here. I can't take my eyes off it for a moment. Looking back off the wing of FX, he's got Konietzki and Jasmine Peterson right behind him. So good positions here for fighting in 13th, 14th, 12th as well. And at the front, I can report the gap to Martin Peterman has increased to 4.5.
Crikey.
And
4.5 seconds.
And if let's do a quick walkthrough here. If we take a little look, Martin Peterman, he has made 4.4 seconds. We're currently on lap 5. We have Pedro Migueles behind him, pushing hard, but still quite a distance. And you can see he's actually gapping Dirk Gretschel as well in third. There's a couple of seconds there falling back. Again, a second and a half back to Visa, running in fourth at the moment. Jan Mulman, who was fourth in the last week's race, is currently running in fifth, still keeping pace, but probably already 11 or so seconds behind the leader. And Jürgen is pressing. Jürgen's been closing this gap over the last couple of laps and now sub-second, so he'll be looking to get under the DRS for the next lap if he can do, in sixth place. Yeah. Running back here, Marco doing a great job in seventh, keeping tag. Olwyn in eighth. Menacing Skull in 9th, and Gabsy running currently in 10th. Great start, very clean.
Very, very clean. Great rundown on the top 10, and really nice to see old Munchin's Skull up there in 9th place. I know he'll be working hard. We're just seeing who's that on the outside there. I think that's Matto, isn't it?
Matto challenging Peterson, Jasmine.
Yeah. Now, yes, Jasmine. No, we're assuming, which of course is a terrible thing to do, to assume, but we're assuming that Jasmine is a lady, in which case, brilliant. We want to see more girls out there, please, in cars. So Jasmine, well done for flying the girl flag.
Yeah, can see absolutely no reason why women aren't more involved in motorsport, whether it be sim or real world. Big fan of complete inclusion. That's why RWB is such a great club, in my view. So just taking a little look here, I'm just thinking about it. The race seems to be settling down. We're into lap 6 as it is. About 10 minutes into the race, we've got some gapping going on here, so it's starting to take a kind of a shape. Just thinking about the circuit and where the opportunities to pass here. I've been watching this on telly a fair amount in this particular track, and the complaints always in the past for the DTM at this circuit has been that the DRS is really not that effective at all. What's your view on that, Tiger, in terms of actually taking advantage of that, flipping that huge wing out of the way?
Well, I think I think there are two main places where the DRS in this particular sim is of huge value. The first one is coming along down from T10 down to Herns-Ernst, where we've just followed Gabsy there. That is a great place along there, particularly out of turn 10. And once the car's level, bang, the old DRS is on. It's not wise to use it along this section because you're too quick into Kumo and you're too quick now into the Ludniak bend. But coming out of that, going slightly wide to the left-hand side, and bang, DRS is on. And then you've got this huge long stretch now down into turn 1. So for the DRS, for DTM, it certainly works, and we've just seen a great example from Gabsy there. A bit deep, but ultimately brings it around, as you said earlier.
Yeah, really interesting. He was literally on the rear axle there of Menacing Skull when he flipped open the DRS. Got a great toe. Oh, we have an off there.
Yep.
That's somebody just off the side of the track. Oh, and you can see he's losing traction at the back here. But yeah, he got the toe all the way down the straight and seemed to pass him right into the braking zone. But obviously when the guy in front is taking the defensive line, it's really hard to make that advantage count. But he looks like he's got it. These guys are running wheel to wheel. This is fabulous racing. Absolutely beautiful. At high speed, keeping the cars under control. Door to door here. Fantastic.
Great discipline from these two. Fantastic ambassadors of fair racecraft awareness
And look at Matt Al sniffing an opportunity here.
Yeah, someone on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when you get two guys racing like this, they will lose half a second a lap at least, and so the guys behind are just pouncing, ready to pounce here. This clump has all moved to win within a 0.6 of a second of each other now as they push for what is effectively 8th place here.
Yeah, Gabsy under a lot of pressure there from Munching Skull and Mad Owl. But actually, I think the one person you should be looking at is at the very back, which is FX, who's just hovering around like a peregrine.
Indeed.
I always call it like a peregrine because
like
he is exactly, like a peregrine falcon. He would just swoop down and just attack. He is the sort of guy that will sit there and very tactfully work out, who's doing what and who's going to make the advantage. And I've seen him in races before, many times exploit an opportunity and take 2 or 3 people when they've been fighting each other.
The strategic driver.
Absolutely, the strategic driver, definitely, yeah.
We love that.
The sad.
We loved seeing Matt Al there, made a perfect example of how to use the DRS along the straight there. Got underneath... He got underneath FX and he got underneath Menacing Skull and actually slid that Audi through into T1, which was great. Again, these guys just fighting in the middle field, and that's what we've always said before. It's great to watch racing at all levels as people pit themselves against each other. I think some of the most exciting racing often happens in the middle of a pack where mistakes seem to be easier to find and more costly, and you could see a little bit too much gas there. For Menacing Skull.
Yeah, and I thought just then that that FX was going to exploit that, but I think he just went too deep into T10, didn't he? But there's a good example, of FX taking the advantage there. But the thing is with these cars is that because there is no traction control and because the engines are so powerful, these V8 monsters in a space frame 1100 kilo, that when these cars are going at their slowest, they're at the most dangerous because there's no downforce, the canards are no good, the spoilers are no good, the wing is no good. Both with DRS on the main straight, and you can see there's not, FX not closing up, but going deep into T1, but I think just enough to stay with Munching Skull on the exit.
Yeah, fabulous battling going on here. Looks like he's left the door open, but it's really just a defensive manoeuvre there as we go into Hockenheimring. Very tricky corner here. I must confess, I have raced this track myself. And
you know what? You told me about this earlier. Tell everyone what happened to you.
Yeah, nightmare memories for me. I had a Caterham. I joined the Caterham Academy. I had 2 years of racing. Absolutely great. I worked really hard to make sure I got all the scrutineering tags. All of the race directors gave ticks for all of my appearances at races so that I could strip the car of the amateur badge on the back, which gave me an opportunity to race in Europe. And this was the European track that they had on the schedule for the Caterham racing team, and I went to Zandvoort with high hopes. I got an amazing draft up the start-finish straight to get me third on the grid in quali. He's just stepping off there a little bit, but he's covered himself. And I made third on the grid, and then I had a night's sleep where I thought maybe I could do this, maybe I could get on the podium. Started to take myself a little bit too seriously, thinking about tire pressures and temperatures and all that nonsense. Psyched myself up, pumped with adrenaline for the race, and span it at that very corner, Hockenheimring, that I just mentioned before. And then race 2, I turned it round on Masterbock, so I was facing the oncoming traffic now at the second lap, so there was 40 cars on the grid. And
so you had your first spin. You had your first spin here.
Yeah, here, sideways, basically rail riding the curb on the inside, just, I don't know, for shows, giggles, I guess. Ended up in 11th, but for the second race, I ended up going home to Mummy, because I turned it round at Master.
Munching Skull goes sideways.
Brakes too hard.
Yeah, but I don't think he damaged the car at all. Change your pants, Nipper. Change your pants.
He's recovered to 14th, so he's lost a few places there. We'll see how he makes that back, because that was a great looking battle, but he must have just lost concentration for a second. The car just rotated under brakes at the end there. Fabulous racing. If we go back a little bit, we'll see here Matteo is pushing hard on Danholm Andersen. They look like team races together, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, great. It's a great livery.
Just walking back up the field here, maybe this won't surprise you, maybe it will. Martin Peterman is now 11.5 seconds ahead at the top of the track here, with Pedro Miguel still pinning in second, which is good. Dirk Gretschel's closed the gap to 2.3, so he's actually not getting dropped by Pedro in third place. And Vizar, again, still 1.5. These are similar gaps. I'm expecting there could be some changes over the pits as we change over for pit changes in the middle of the race here, because obviously that's an opportunity for mistakes to be made as well.
Yeah. Have we got a couple of retirements there, Beanster? Is that Alwyn and Black? Have they retired?
Yeah, that's a good shout. We have Alwyn, he's 3 laps down, so he made it to lap 7, and Andy either didn't manage to get off the grid or didn't get past the first lap there, so unfortunately he's also retired. Currently 22 runners.
Beautiful. Well, what can we say? 11 seconds on what is essentially lap 11. That's a second a lap this guy is pulling out. You can't take it away from him. I think he can pull up and have a cup of tea and read Woman's Own now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a really nice guy actually, Martin, and from Zero Force Rating has been a regular with RWB and RWB events, but very talented. And I think that, I think he's probably forgotten more about sim racing than I know and most other people know. So, the only way to get quicker in this game is to be privileged enough to go into an event with someone like him in it.
Yeah, it's what they always say, isn't it? Play with people better than you and you'll get better if you have a competitive spirit. Let's just take a quick lap with Martin. Maybe we can all get some tips. I'm certainly watching attentively. Most of the time with the DTM cars, my experience has always been to keep it smooth. Keep the accelerator as smooth as you can. Don't bury it if you don't have to bury it. And he has a very smooth style here as he takes every apex pretty much perfectly.
And do you know something I've noticed? He's never actually fully off the throttle at all, ever. He's left foot braking correctly, as you would do in real life, which is applying the brake and throttle at the same time to maintain traction. So, and he is doing all of that. So those of us who are, just braking with our left foot and coming off of the throttle fully, we're more comfortable with that because we're in complete control of one function. But someone like Martin Peterman, Jake, Speed Demon, and not just them, but many sim racers out there, the really quick ones are most certainly never off the gas.
Yeah, I actually, and this is the old man in me speaking, I think that younger people have a massive advantage over us who've driven clutch cars for 30 years, used to braking with your right foot as you change gears with your left clutch. And then the transition when I took up sim racing to actually braking with my left foot, it felt like I had somebody else's leg instead of my own pressing brake.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, exactly the same, yeah.
Took a long time to adjust to it, and you can tell quality racers, very, very smooth, very, very able to both do smooth hands and smooth feet as well. And as we work down the field here, no major position changes here. We have Peterman, Magales, Gretschel, Vizar, Walby, Mullman, Marco Gabzi, Madal, FX, Konieczny, Charger, British, Skull, Peterson, Holm Anderson, Matto, Mr. Judd, Cos, Perez, Burley and Dice. What about
some sort of comparison perhaps with the sort of fastest, the middle runners and the rear there with the sort of best lap times? Are we able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently fastest lap on the circuit here is held by Martin at 1:30.912.
Good grief.
And running through the track, honestly, the closest is with Pedro in second place with a 1:31.6. So that's a clear 0.7 seconds difference between the fastest and the second fastest laps. And then I'm seeing a number of 1:32s, obviously at the top of the pack. But actually, you can see here, I think that must be a changeover. Mr. Judd, running currently in 18th, has put in a 1:32, but the slowest lap is a 1:37, and they'll keep the driver anonymous.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether it's a strategy of Cos, Perez and Burley, who have, Perez, Burley and Jag Dice, who have already pitted. I'm wondering whether that's a strategy or whether that's because they had a damaged car.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things, isn't it? If you're starting at the back, you might roll the dice here and take your chances with a long strategy. But like you said, sometimes you just have to think on your feet if you've made mistakes and you need to rethink your new strategy. We can see Cos here and Judd having a good battle right at the back here for 19th, 18th. And that's Matto in front of them, closing the door nicely as we go into the penultimate corner, Kumho.
Yeah.
Great racing so far. We are 20 minutes into the race, I should say. 39 minutes left of this race, and we have a nice steady looking field as we run back.
Awesome. As we just seen, who was that? Was that who we were looking at there? Is that Martin Peterman already starting to carve his way through the field?
Martin's still actually a little bit further around the track here. He's just exiting onto the start-finish straight. So yeah, he's probably only a handful of seconds now. He's probably not more than 15 seconds from that race we just saw. Cos still pressuring Matto here at 17th, fighting for 16th place. Just one thing that I was thinking about with this circuit as well, it is an interesting blend of fast corners like these, and then some very technical. You've got 2 or 3 effective mid-speed hairpin corners. It's quite technical. What's your feeling about the balance here of the cars? Do you think there is a preference for a car type at this type of track, or is that just me wishful thinking?
Well, I think it's the fact that it's an FIA Grade 1 track pretty much lends itself to the very fastest and quickest that exists, which of course is the F1, or even actually for certain types of tracks, the F1E when it comes out, but certainly the F1 cars. So it means that actually the track lends itself for, almost someone in the Euronics bit AMG goes into the wall there, but the track pretty much lends itself to a lot of different types of classes. Personally, I like the DTM class in Race Room. I think they've got that absolutely on point. I've never driven a DTM car, so how do I know? Well, it feels about right. So how about that? But yeah, so I don't think I could say that there is a best class of car around here that really suits it. But I'd say the DTM cars, which is ironic that we're watching them, really lend themselves for a great deal of fun. And of course, will slap you around the face with a wet fish if you get it wrong.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes them most challenging of all. There's a lot of different classes in Race Room, and there's nothing more scary than driving a rear-wheel drive car with too much power and too little weight like these are, with zero traction control and cold tyres not blanketed. Yeah. Which is interesting. Reading about that they stopped actually doing the heated tyres some years ago in DTM, and I can only assume that's because they wanted to inject a little bit more tension in those first 2 or 3 exit laps from a pit change.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there is a reason why you and I drive four-wheel drive cars.
Yeah,
I don't want an M3. I'm not interested in an M3. I want 4 wheels, and I want them all driven and stuck to the ground. Yeah. Not natural. It's not a Mark 1 Escort.
No, it's not a Mark 1 Escort, that's for sure. Thinking these cars are generally going 3.5 seconds to 60, so very punchy, but it's not actually the 0 to 60 speed, which is the interesting statistic. It's the mid speed from 60 through to 120, and then it's the braking distances, which are perilously short.
Yeah.
I know that my neck muscles wouldn't cope with this kind of car for more than half a lap before I claimed illness and had to be seasick.
So you and I have got each of the cars. You've got an AMG 63.
Yeah, I'm very
I've
lucky.
got an RS5, the V8 one.
It's V8. Likewise, the V8.
We don't do V6s.
Been through that period in my life.
So what we need someone else in the commentary team who's got an M3, please. So if you've got an M3, doesn't matter what year it is. An M3 is an M3. Oh, look, a little bit of door rubbing going on here. With Cos and I think that's BGP British, isn't it?
Yeah,
Visa
just made his way through. That was actually coming through into 16th place after having pitted, I think. Yeah, Visa has pitted. Yeah. He's now making his way back through there, so that was door to door.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point to get back on track. Marco is currently in 12th place, and he's pitted already. None of the others in front of him are. He's 6 seconds behind Munching Skull. You need about I think around here well, perhaps we can find out. I think it's 25 seconds, 25 to 30 seconds to come in, have the tyres. But it's not a standard sort of, like ACC is not, you can come in and have the whole world fixed in 30 seconds, providing it's not too much damage or whatever.
Yeah.
You can fill your tank up and have 4 wheels done in 30 seconds. But I think in race room it's a little bit more nuanced with regards to the amount of time you take in the pits for your tyres. I don't think you have to do all 4.
Yeah, so we're effectively looking at British here in place 16, who has had a pit change. In front of him is Matto, who has not. So Matto clearly has race position here as well as potential advantage. And in front of them both is Cos. So actually it's the top 10 drivers here currently not having made a pit change. And 11th, 12th, 14th, and then from 17 down have all made their pit changes. So you can see a shuffling at the back, and that's why we're getting some of the leaders making their way through here. And as I say that, Martin Peterman is extending his lead to 22.5 seconds at the front, having not made a pit change. And like you said before, Tiger, they're probably running long at the front of the pack here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they will. I think they'll run long. We saw that from Martin Peterman, didn't we, last week, and in round 1. And I think he'll do the same. And I think some of these guys here will run long. Vizar really is probably the first, I think. Well, Pedro Miguelis is also now pitted.
Pedro.
Yeah, he's now pitted. We're coming up to sort of, just short of halfway. I'm willing to bet that Peterman won't for a while. I mean, he's got 23 seconds there, and he'll just enjoy clawing and adding a second on per lap. And coming into the pits, pitting, coming out and still having 10, 15 seconds clear of everyone else will probably be his strategy.
Yeah, we're looking at Gabsy here. We're currently running in 5th, who has Pedro ahead of him, who has already made a pit change. So Pedro's done his pit change and actually returned to position in 4th, which he was from 2nd, which means that he's really got his race fight is with Jorgen Welby now and Dirk Gretschel, who are 8 seconds and 24 seconds up the road from him. So if he can keep his pace up here, if Pedro can just keep his pace and not get in any pickles, he looks like he'll return to the 2nd place position.
Yeah, for sure. And we're now seeing a lot of green where people have pitted. Cars have just been given a drive-through penalty there for speeding the pit lane. Oh, poor admin. I've said that once before. You've got to sort your own admin out. You've got to make sure that you don't speed in the pits. The amount of people who turn around and go, I shouldn't have got that. I was on the, I was under the limit. Rubbish. If the system awards you a fine, you've been fined. It's as simple as that. And I know it's not an M3 for those people who have already messaged me. It's an M4. I know that, but M3 or M4 is fine.
Now you're just going to make haters out of the BMW fanboys.
Stop giving me all your hate. Bring it to me.
We'll move on. Jan Moolman, he's made his pit change and he's returned in 9th position now, having a little bit of a close tagging battle there with Menacing Skull, who has not pitted. So Menacing Skull will be trying to keep his position, keep Jan Moolman at bay so that he can hold track position for as long as he can, but there's only so much you can do when you're getting slightly tagged around the corner, which looks like it was close racing there.
Right.
Jan put the pressure on Menacing Skull.
Absolutely. I was just looking at the Munching Skull says, you know what, you want it that bad, mate, you crack on. Great move by Moolman there, although slightly a little bit risky, but you can see the pace on Moolman compared to Munching Skull. I mean, Moolman has certainly got a faster pace there. But interesting enough, I was looking at the sort of the demograph, so to speak, of where our racers are from tonight. 12 different countries. You've got people out there from France and Italy and Canada and Ireland and Czechoslovakia and Portugal and all South Africa, Brazil. If only the world was quite so dovetailed into each other. If only the world come together quite so often, instead of bloody arguing all the time.
Yeah, it's great to see such variety. Racing is historic in so many countries, and the world has pretty much a world-class racer from every country in the world. So they're great heroes for everyone, and that's why people do this, isn't it? as
Absolutely.
Menacing Skull jumps into the pit lane. I call him Menacing Skull because that's what's written in front of me. Is there any
Yeah, it
reason?
is. Yeah, no, I think it's only me that calls him Munching Skull.
Okay,
The skull
well.
that munches, isn't it?
Okay, so in some good positions here. Currently watching Vizar now. He's moving up into 11th place. Some spacing going on in the grid here, so we've got quite a lot of kind of open spaces here. So far, it's only Martin and Dirk at the front who are not pitting. We have then Timo Konieczny and Charger also in 6th, has not pitted yet, so he's running 20 laps currently. He's coming up to, this is the half point distance, so most drivers will have considered or will be either going long now if they don't make that change. I'm just running down here and I can see we have Koz, looks like he may be a retirement. And also Jag Dice may have also retired as well. So we have 4 in the pit here that don't look particularly active to me.
Yeah, 4 that have retired, and only 2 or 3 out there now that need to pit. I was just looking at Charger actually, because he's going to be in trouble soon, because he's going to have Moorman behind him. Now Charger hasn't pitted yet, now I'm just trying to think of his strategy. I'm willing to bet he's going to go long. That's what I think he's going to do, because he's past the halfway point now. The real sort of clincher will be do it before halfway, in order to come out and have to have halfway. But you can already see in the background there Moorman catching him up. In the last lap, he's clawed back 1.3 seconds according to my counts. So, it's going to be about a lap before Moorman is going to be, challenging Charger for, what is essentially 5th place.
Yeah, and it's one of those, I guess, strategy moments, isn't it? Charger's going to be thinking, how long can I go? Should I go in now? He's currently holding 5th place. And if we're estimating around 28 seconds for a pit change, I put that roughly with a ballpark returning around the 12th mark of the grid.
Yep, I completely agree. I just worked out then 12th, and actually he's got about 2 seconds roughly, about 12th, and before he'd be 13th. So because he's now 27 minutes ago, I'm willing to bet he'll go another couple of few laps and then pit.
Yeah, that looks that way, doesn't it?
When he starts to see Moorman, he will start to see that Moorman is clawing, and rather than actually lose time driving defensively, what he will do is exploit the opportunity, allow Moorman to go and pit. Already Moorman now sub 2 seconds.
Yeah, Moorman now running in 6th, was in 4th at the start of the race, and actually looks like Jorgen Walby has made the progress here. He's in 3rd, and that's probably where Jan Moorman's getting his motivation from. Somebody who was behind him earlier in the race. Oh yeah, there you go.
Charger has pitted and already now starting to slip down to the table. We reckon 12th, 13th at the most. He'll rejoin.
Yep. Jorgen's on the move. Looks like he's making good progress up the field here. He's now in 4th with Jan 12 seconds behind him. Marco holding position in 6th with FX in 7th. Vizar in 8th. So Vizar currently running 3rd in the championship with 104 points, around about 38 points off the leader. He's trailing here in 8th place. He could probably do with gaining 2 or 3 more places in order to keep himself competitive for the championship. But at the top, it's basically Martin Peterman and Dirk Gretschel who are fighting for the competition here, with Pedro Migueles, who he's 12th in the series, mainly because he missed the first race at Redbull Ring, but he made a 4th place in last week's Mid-Ohio race. So I'm thinking that Vizar's probably going to be challenging for the top 3 positions by the end of this series. Let's flip back down to British. He's got a close battle on here as he pushes Charger on very cold tyres, having only exited the pit last lap.
Yeah, and you can see there actually, good call, because we said 2 seconds. I think I said 13th. I meant 12th, and you can see there that he just managed to pit BGP British as he came out the pits, because that's how close British is behind him to re-secure back that position. So Charger now having to defend, and British most certainly on the attack to maintain that what is essentially 10th position.
Yeah, we're looking down the track here. Only one driver yet to pit, and that's
Pedro Migueles has retired.
Oh,
Pedro Migueles has retired.
correct.
Oh, what on earth has happened there?
Oh dear, we missed that. That's my bad clicking. Apologies to
Oh,
the
no.
viewers.
I mean, Beanster and everyone else, we try to capture as much as we can. Of course we do. But, sometimes all it takes is to have an off, go into a wall and do a tiger, and that's your race over. And that may well what have happened. Now, if we had if this was ACC, we could do a. Come on, right up
hairy.
the backside there. Let's sort our braking out, shall we? Who's that? British?
That was British.
Matto.
Matto.
Matto, my flight sim brethren. Come on, boys, sort your braking distances out. But as I was saying, if this was ACC, we could actually do a rewind of a minute and stay with Miguelis and find out what had happened. But sadly, we can't do that.
Oh, that's such a shame. Just talking about that must be my curse. Just talking about his opportunity to get higher up in the season, given that he had a fourth in last week's Mid-Ohio race, and it was a particularly good fourth as well.
It is your right, Beanster, to curse.
Yeah.
It's just something that comes with the commentary, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's one of the joys. I never had this much power.
Well, you have now.
Right, we are reaching the 37th minute, so another 23 minutes to go of this race. We have rather settled into a pattern at the front of the track. Apologies for not giving you so much coverage at the front, but there's been some great mid battles. This has actually turned into quite a race of attrition, because I think we've got Munching Skulls also retired.
Skull! What on earth has happened? Please tell me on the YouTube chat. That's a shame. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 24 starters have now retired, which essentially means that one out of every 4 that started the race has retired. Such is the attrition rate around this circuit so far.
Yeah, wouldn't have expected that. I mean, it's quite tight, the circuit, but I guess it's quite punishing in terms of when you're off, because there's so many high-speed corners. You lose it here, you lose it at 2 or 3 other points in the track, and you're probably going to have an impact speed of over 120, 30 miles an hour as we watch Mr. Judd pressuring here. Looks like he's going to make this move.
Closure speed as well.
Great.
And of course, he's now got the rest of the too deep into Tars and Ben, but he might just claw it back. Door rub in there, and quite rightly, Miguel Perez is not just going to give it to him, but of course, Judd has got 2 more DRSs to use going around here. He's a hard racer, Judd, probably not as regular as he used to be, and so sometimes when we have these sort of hiatus,
was he tagged?
As
can't
Perez. Was it Perez?
It was Perez. Yeah, he's now going backwards. Unfortunately, couldn't tell whether there was contact there or whether it was just too excited on the exit. And half of Judd's car is hanging off the front there.
Well, fair play to Judd. He held his own when all those around us lost theirs and ended up going into a wall. So, settle down, Judd. You've still got 2 DRSs to use, and you've got a couple of places there. You're now being challenged 3 wide coming into what is essentially turn 10 into
Yasmin just
turn
giving
9
up
into
2
turn 10.
spaces there in that one corner. It looks like there might be a problem with Yasmin's car at the back here. Don't know whether there's an issue here, but that seemed to be door wide open, and that was racing for position. That wasn't backmarker letting through or anything like that.
All these guys that we're looking at in front there, Judd and British, these 3 are indeed racing for position, right?
Yeah, exactly. 11th, 12th, and we're in with Carla in 13th position. As we just see British just taking a very, very difficult run on the right-hand side there. I think he must have had a toe off on the rear, lost a little control under acceleration, and Judd is falling backwards on the field here. That's how it's happening. It's such high impacts. I think that cost Judd the race as well. Down to 17 races here. It's all to play for.
Well, the thing is, so the engine is not on the roof. The engine is in the front of the car, ladies and gents. So when you go into a wall at 100 miles an hour, it being a sim means that your engine's knackered. That's it. Game over.
Yeah, it's a costly mistake to make at this circuit. I wouldn't have expected so much attrition, but this is really interesting. It does put a lot of new racers in for opportunities here. If you look up the field here, we've got some of our regular faces at the top, but everyone's got a chance here. We're watching currently Jasmine, who's in 12th position, with Miguel Perez behind in 13, Matto in 14th, Holm Anderson in 15th, Burley in 16th, and Maral in 17th.
look out for FX, because he is right up there in 5th place currently. We saw him earlier on have a battle with 3 other guys, but and he was the Peregrine as I named him, and just waiting to swoop in there and steal the places, catch the pigeons.
There's not an animal theme here. Every racer has some kind of animal simile.
He is just an animal. FX. Okay. He's got a V6 RS5, so I can't recognise that actually he exists as a human being, to be honest. But no, on a serious note, FX up into 5th place. Why is he up into 5th place? I'll tell you why. Because he's just done a good pace, kept out of trouble, kept it clean, and has been accurate on his laps. And as a result of that, I don't know whether we can pop up his profile, whether we can do that, Bean. So let's have a look at his sector timings here. For the past 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, look at the continuity there. Pretty much 105s within 0.4 of a second over what is essentially 10 laps. So, 133, 132, 32, 32, 32, 32, 32, 32. That's what he's done. So, I don't believe it's just look at my RS5 is better than Tiger's RS5.
I just noticed his tagline.
Absolutely outrageous. That's outrageous, RS5. I'm mortified.
So we're just watching actually here. He's moved up. FX has now moved up into 4th place. I think I must have missed that. Vizar's now in 5th place. Just checking to see who might have dropped back here.
Now for FX Beanstar, what we will look at now, I'll keep a close eye on it for you, and that is the time differential to Moorman. Is FX closing the gap to Moorman? Because Moorman is not closing the gap to Walby. So Moorman will not challenge Walby unless Walby falls off the track. Moorman will not be challenging Walby for 17 seconds.
Yeah,
possibly. I was looking at the different number there, but the point is, FX is now 6.5 seconds, somewhere around there, averaging. Is he closing the gap to Moorman? That's what we want to know. At the same time, is Vizar closing the gap to FX? And again,
I'm just watching that as well. That's very consistent, around 7 seconds between Vizar and FX here. So they look like they may have reached a certain groove that they're all driving in, but plenty can change in this last section here, as we see British pressuring Marco here for 9th place. Some really great racing, and so far, I mean, a couple of offs. We've had a couple of nasty offs, obviously having caused retirements, but no overly aggressive racing, and sticking to the mantra of racing clean, racing fair, and racing for position, which is of course the right order to do any racing in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? FX is clawing some time back on Moorman. Mm-hmm. So FX is clawing not a great deal. About 0.2 per lap, but he is clawing it back. 16 minutes left to go. That's about 11 laps. So it is possible FX could be challenging Moorman, but in saying that, it's not a trend that is linear, and so already we can see that actually, he's just lost 0.2. So perhaps not.
Just checking through here, going back to fastest times, Martin Peterman still holding the same at 1:31.15, and the closest second is 1:32.7. No changes there, but noticeably when I look at the sectors here, it's all being made up in sector 2. So most of the time that Martin is making up on everybody else is in the second sector. So he must have a really different technique here, because he's clean. It looks like he's a clean 1 second at least ahead of the next man.
Yeah, and I think the where the time is really pulled is in 3 places. Shivlak, the right-hander into Masters Bend, whether people are in 3rd or 4th, and certainly the entry and exit out of the chicane. Turn 10 is also, there's 2 different ways of taking turn 10, and that is where a lot of time can be clawed back around this track, is around turn 10.
Yeah, actually a number of these corners seem to have multiple lines that you can adopt depending on that moment in time. It seems, especially T1, I always found that if you want to defend, you can still carry a lot of pace running the curb on the inside, but equally so you can go really deep on the brakes and run on the outside for a kind of a J exit. Like this one as well, lots of different lines you can take here. Passing through there, looked to me like it was a back marker moving through.
Yeah, I think it was. I want to go back to FX because he is clawing that time back on Moorman. You know, I said 0.2 seconds per lap. The last lap was actually 0.4 of a second, nearly half a second, clawing back off Moorman. Vicoli, however, is not clawing the back on FX. So if you imagine them sort of as dots on a wall and you sort of place them where they were, FX is slowly, moving to the point where he is challenging third place, but fifth can't keep up with FX. So actually, FX is in a very good place. If this was infinite into a point where they would all then be positioned in accordance with their speed and pace, FX position owns third.
So what's your maths like then, Tiger? He's currently at 5.4 seconds.
Yep.
We are 14 minutes left of this with lap times around the 1 minute 30.
Yeah.
I make that around about, what is that? 8-9 laps?
About eight laps, 9 laps possibly if Peterman has not crossed the line at that point. Yeah, so about 9. Let's call it 9 laps. We're down to roughly around between 4.5 and 4.7 seconds with FX, and he's clawing about 0.3, 0.4 per lap. So actually, it is possible that FX will be challenging for third. Very difficult though. If this was another 25 minutes, they would be battling for third. But with the amount that's left, possibly, it would be down to the wire, essentially.
Yeah, one thing, as they say on the telly, one thing catching, another thing passing.
Yeah, quite.
Circuit's difficult to pass on. You're really trying to pressure the driver in front of you to make a mistake, but we're making good progress. So Martin has just passed the start-finish lap. He started lap 31. Running order is Martin Peterman in first, Jürgen Wolby in second. Let's have a walk through. Martin Peterman first, Jürgen Wolby in second, Jan Mulman in third, FX in fourth and closing, Vizar slightly getting dropped by FX now in fifth, and Gabsy in sixth, with Konieczny in seventh, Charger in eighth, which is a great run given that he had such a late change of tyres. Marco pressuring Charger right now in ninth, with British ahead in 10th, Matteo in 11th, Perez in 12th, Jasmine Peterson is in 13th, Holm Anderson 14th, Madal 15th, and Justin Burley is currently at the back in 16th. At the back out of a starting pack of 23. We've lost 7 drivers in this race with only 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, and of those 7 drivers, a couple of really quick drivers. Pedro Migueles, for him to fall off the cliff there. I mean, I'm sure he was absolutely mortified. At the very beginning of the stream, I said, watch out for him. Watch out for Migueles. He was my trump card. Cheers, Pedro. You ruined that gamble, didn't you? That that I had.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? It was a great example of the difference between racing on an RWB server and racing on an open server just then, as Marco put a move on Charger into T1, still pressuring right now, and the door was getting closed, the gap was getting smaller. In an open server, I guarantee the guy in behind would have just stuffed the car into that corner and spun the driver off in front. So great to see such discipline when you're really desperately trying to pass the driver in front of you, to have the skill to know when to put the pressure on and when not to. Marco held his place, going to come for a second charge at Charger.
Yeah. Stop press, everyone. Stop press. 2 places around the track, FX has dropped to sub 4 seconds. So at that rate, actually, he will be challenging he'll be challenging Moorman in about 5 laps.
Ooh, now we're getting interesting. 5 laps.
5 laps.
Have 5 laps.
And that means that it will take it right to the wire, which is what we predicted.
We'll keep tracking that as we watch Marco trying to put a press again on Charger back in 9th position. This is where the closest racing is happening at the moment.
Charger's had a good race. He's up into 8th. He pitted and he came out into 10th. A couple of people have fallen off of the track. That's part of racing, I'm afraid. You exploit people's ability to place themselves under self-induced pressure and fall off the track. And you climb the space, and that's just as rewarding as passing someone. Perhaps not, but the fact is, you move up, and that's racing.
Yeah, let's not deny it. When you're driving hard, working really hard, concentrating and sweating really hard, and you see a car spinning off on the right, there is a little bit of glee in your heart.
There is some joy. Yeah, there is some joy.
Because nobody's got her. So it does give you a lift of confidence. And actually, to be honest, Charger here, who's really, really holding off Marco now, had a tough few laps with cold tyres, if you remember earlier in the race, as he gets a wiggle on into Hans Ernstbach.
Hans Ernst, the first director of the Royal Automobile Dutch Racing Club. No, wow. Hans Ernst, you said.
Yeah, Hans Ernst. Yes.
Yeah, he was the second one. Hockenheimring was, of course, the first.
Of course, yeah. I mean, everybody knows that.
Oh! Stop press! Get me a bloody ambulance.
Marco, too much pace on exit. Probably rode a little bit on the inside of the curb. Got the car out of shape. Kept his shape. Got his boot in still. And I think just lost the rear end a little bit. He managed to gather it, but I can't think that he's not come away with some damage from that. As Charger now moves up and starts to put pressure on Timo Konieczny. Still tracking FX, who is now at 3.4 and in visual range of Jan Mulman, who must know this now.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be seeing that. He'll be seeing the timer clipping down. He'll be knowing that FX is clawing. FX will be knowing that he's clawing, and he'll be looking at the amount of time that he's got left and saying to himself, can I challenge this guy for third? You can, FX. You've just got the time, but actually getting past him, I don't think you've got enough time to get past him.
Yeah, it's probably end up hoping that he makes that Mulman makes a mistake if he can get him really under pressure. So yeah, FX has made a ninth place in the first race at Redbull Ring and made a 17th in mid-Ohio. I think he had some issues in that race, but definitely pushing up here in fourth place and really starting to reel in Mulman. And one thing that happens is, with the racing is you see the guy in front. As soon as you get a guy in front that you can see, you seem to get a sniff for it, and you seem to find an extra level, a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more consistency, which is something that I think we've seen FX do excellently in this race, is high level of consistency in lapping. Probably, I'm going to wager, here's my gamble, that he's still clicking in here at the 132s, but he's actually dropped a little bit over the last 2 or 3 laps. That might be just a little bit of tiredness setting in. That's irrelevant. He's still actually snapping on the heels here of Mulman as we come into this final stage of the race.
Absolutely, and he can see Mulman. He can see the orange shell of that of the BM there. So Tiger FX will be, wanting to challenge him. We can see Mulman there just going into turn 10. He's got him in his sights, which is essentially what we were saying, in that he'd be able to see him. A quick note, if I may, Beanster, about this. 2 things, if I may. I'll hand over to you on the second point. The first point is people are asking me whether I'm commentating this Saturday. Stop press. This Saturday, Beanster will tell you about it later on. The GT4 League. Yes, I'm going to launch the league. Oh, FX, don't lose it now. We're going to launch the league, and I will be doing that with Xerax from Racing Sim Tools, our club sponsor, which I'm so looking forward to that. We've done a couple of jobs before, sort of remotely, mixing up both our audio streams together for some rallying, and Xerax, Zach is going to come along and commentate with me and be a bit more regular on the commentation, which is going to be fantastic. He's got a great voice, he's got a great amount of knowledge, he's a real life racing engineer, and that just brings a wonderful dimension to this club that actually no one else can say that they've got, especially when it comes to commentating. So that's great news. The second point is to hand back to you, and that is to say, who do you think the race of the event is, Beanstra?
Put it on me. It's a difficult call. We've had such a lot of climbers here. Obviously, we're looking at FX, who's made great progress through this race. I think Charger's had a great race as well, keeping really steady in 8th. I think that's been a really solid race here. Jorgen, I have to say, looks like he may take it for me, because he has passed Mulman at the top there. We must have had an issue previously. So we now have Martin Peterman, Jorgen Walby, Jan Mulman in top 3. my racer of the day has got to go Jürgen Welby. He's made steady progress through today's race, turning in what looks like it could be, without mistakes, a really good second place for today.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because you're number one tonight. What does YouTube think? Already they say FX. I do think FX deserves racer of the event, the people's champion, but the fact of the matter is FX doesn't like talking. He's just a quiet guy. He likes to do his racing and do his support, and that's it. But we cannot not acknowledge the achievements of FX this evening, who is now, as we said, in the last throws of the race now, challenging Moorman. And I tell you where FX is getting his time from, Beanster, and that is at the end of the straight into T1 at Tarzan Bend. FX is braking much, much later, and he is putting on the throttle much, much quicker than Moorman. And that is why, right now, with FX challenging Moorman into Schweilach and coming up to Masters, that FX may well just play the long game. He can do it another 2-3 laps around here. He can secure DRS when he comes at the end of this lap, and then actually secure what is essentially third place. It'd be great for him if he does.
Absolutely. A really great closing section of this race as FX puts the press on Jan Moolman. Also second racing here, Charger really pressing now against Timo Konietzny. Really pressing here for 7th place. Two really great looking races. I'm going to switch back to FX because that's for position on podium if he can make this. Down to 0.6 of a second as he starts to put more pressure on. We have 3.5 minutes left, which by my calcs is just 2 laps, maybe 3 laps, as the leader is already on lap 37.
Now watch FX Beanstat, and a few others in the chat there are saying, crikey, where does he make his time up? Watch FX coming into T1 at the end of this straight, and then watch Moorman. FX is already starting to go to the apex and on the throttle now. And this is where he makes his time up, coming into what is essentially Gerlach, exiting Gerlach and into Hockenheimring. He's already right behind him. So this is where he's making his time up. Look at Moorman and look at his style. Look at FX and look at his style. FX is much, much smoother and brakes much, much later.
Charger just making a move here. Going around the outside on which corner is that? Oh, that's corner one, T1.
Yeah, T1. Who's he got in front of him? Timo Konietzny.
Chasing Konietzny now. He's right on his backside as we push. This is a fight for 7th, and behind them Marco. This is a 3-way battle for 7th place. Timo Konietzny in 7th, Charger in 8th, and Marco in 9th. No comments on my pronunciation of Konietzny.
Timo. And Charger looking on the inside at Schweilach and now coming into Masters. Same with FX and Moorman, same with Charger and Timo. These guys will take it right to the wire. Already looking like he's going to challenge on the outside with DRS, using very unusually into Kumo, but taking a wider line in order to be able to get a quick exit out of Ludniak. And he's got a DRS coming over that line. Bang, he's going to have him going into Tarzan, and we know he's much quicker and much later on the break.
Takes a defensive line from Moolman here. Can he do the switchback? Definitely got the pace here. This is interesting. Can't take a defensive line. He can snatch this. Oh, great defensive driving there. Pushed himself very hard to keep the pace up there. Lost a little pace FX as he ran the curb.
Such a shame. He pushed himself right to the wire there, and why not? That's what he's supposed to be doing. And he was just unlucky, I think, at the end of that straight. Yeah. Maybe he showed his cards a little bit too soon. Maybe he pulled out a bit too soon. As we just seen Charger go off.
That's team. They must have had an incident on turn 1. 3 of them I was trying to click over. I think that looks like Timo, Charger, and also possibly, I can't remember the third one. Was it Matto was fighting for that? No, it wasn't Matto.
Yeah, it was Timo, it was Marco and Charger.
That's right. Yeah, it looks like Charger came out worse there, dropping down to 9th with Konietzny in 8th and Marco in 7th. We return to Martin Peterman, who's leading the race with a whopping 68-second lead over Jürgen Walby, who is in 2nd, and Jan Moolman in 3rd, having held off a really late challenge from FX in that final lap. Not giving up here, but great racing at the top, great racing in the middle of the field as well as we turn into the last corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Hats off to FX. And I know why he pushed himself as hard as he did. You know, a bit of self-induced pressure. Not much time left in the race there. You know, he's not going to be able to claw that time back and have another attack at Moorman. You know, they're now passing a back marker essentially. He'll get out the way, I'm sure, coming up the Hockenheimring, the Hunzerug. But as I said, he's not got enough time to challenge. But oh no, FX has gone into a wall. FX has gone into a wall.
He might still keep this 4th place.
I'm taking my hat off here and just placing it over my heart. Pat.
Well, that's what you call a hard push to the end of the race there for FX, pressuring Jan Mollman for 2 or 3 laps as he clawed back from, I think it was 7 seconds we tracked him. And then he's made an error, obviously, or maybe had an issue with the back marker. He's still holding 4th, but that's opened the door to Vizar, who's now right on his backside for this final couple of corners. And it looks to me like Martin is going to take this race with Jorgen in 2nd, Jan in 3rd for the podium positions. FX now under pressure from Vizar, but I think he should be able to hold this till the end of the race. Absolutely.
Come on, FX. Let's get you in that 4th place. You know, drive hard and defensive and make sure that Vizar just hasn't got the space to challenge you. 4th place would be a great place for you on this event. I know that, you know, had there been longer, I know you would have taken your time a bit more. But you've got the pace. And Vizar just has not got the time to challenge you. So a great finish for FX, undoubtedly.
So switching over, auto director, so we can make sure we get to see everybody as they come round for the final lap here. Martin Peterman already finished out on the checkered flag. Jorgen Walby now in running through here. There's help me out here. Where's the checkered flag on the director?
So I think so. The race is now finished. So that everyone has now got 1 extra lap to do because he's already crossed the line essentially. So yeah, Jorgen Walby is in 2nd place, which means everyone else is still going.
Yep, got that. Great racing here. Yeah, might have to change my view on that, but actually no, you know what, Jorgen Walby, when you're pressuring from 5th, 6th, 7th at the top there, and you can make your way through steadily, if you can keep anywhere near Martin, it seems to be worthy of driver of the day. And it's sad because if you're driving as fast as Martin Peterman is around this track, and then a commentator amateur like me doesn't pick you as the driver of the day, what's gone wrong?
A very good point mentioned in YouTube actually, and something I had on my notes here, and that is that, you know, Martin has lapped everyone except Jorgen. So Martin has gone through the whole field except 2nd place. So you know what, Jorgen Walby, you're our people's champion. Well done. We'll have a chat with you afterwards.
Fabulous racing, everyone. Congratulations to some very, very skillful driving. Really great competitive racing and just so much fun to watch. And for me, so much fun to commentate on. Fair, clean, and always racing hard for position. I really love the way the club's driving this type of ethic on the race course. So as we close out, looking at the top finishers, we ended up with 6 or 7, I think it was 7 retirements in the end, with 17 finishes. Which gives us a little bit more compressed scoring going into the 3rd and then into the final round in 4th. So just a point of note, we'll be heading over, finish off the stream in the next few minutes. But just to make sure that you're aware that the next streams that are coming up, Tiger mentioned it earlier, he'll be kicking off the Saturday much awaited GT4 League, as the GT4 cars have recently been released into Assetto Corsa Competizione, and because of the inundated applications for driving on that, we're ending up with a tiered racing league where the groups have been tiered by hot stints so that you get fair racing in the groups of times that's suitable to your abilities, and that's going to be kicking off on Saturday. Very, very excited to be watching that. I'll be tracking that. No chance of me being able to race in a GT4. It feels like you're sliding on an ice rink, but good luck to the more skillful drivers who are going for the GT4s. And with that, I'll leave you with making sure that you, whenever you're feeling like you want to race, don't ever think about racing on your own. Make sure you race at RWB. It's ta-da from me, ta-da from Tiger.
Thanks very much, everyone. See you next time. See you Saturday.